Is your character a goody two-shoe or a cruel and sadistic villain? Does your character follow the rules even if it dooms him? Or does she do as she pleases, regardless of laws or regulation? By the end of this video, you will have alignment straightened out. Alignment can seem nonsensical. Philosophers have spent their entire careers trying to define and pinpoint what it means to be good. In Dungeons and Dragons 5e, alignment can seem vague. New games like Pathfinder and Tales of the Valiant have done away with alignment. But alignment was not always so abstract. Many people just pick an alignment that matches their class or background and move on. Alignment is never used or acted upon, and players just keeping being your typical murder hobos. Alignment today is a character's loose personal worldview. Law versus chaos. Do you follow the rules or do you do as you please? Are you neutral? Undecided? Do you follow the laws as long as you don't get caught? Let's look at what alignment used to be and why it broke down. In older editions, there were only three alignments: lawful, neutral, and chaotic. Eventually, in advanced D&D, the good versus evil axis was added so that sneaky bill collector can be lawful and still evil. On top of that, some classes had a strict alignment requirement. If your cleric stopped sharing the alignment of their deity, or God forbid, your paladin stopped being lawful good, then their magic would soon be gone. Alignment was not just a spot on your sheet, but a behavior requirement for your character. Eventually, other games created systems that expanded and broke free from the old alignment system. Vampire the Masquerade came out in the late 80s, early 90s. It's a game where you play a vampire in contemporary America. The game is about the power fantasy of being a vampire, the horror of degenerating into a monster. In order to model the more subtle psychology and morality of the setting, the game used two sets of traits: nature versus demeanor and humanity score. Nature and demeanor describe who your character is on a deep level and who that character presents itself as. Okay. For instance, a character's nature could be an architect, which means she has a need to build lasting things or institutions, but their demeanor might be a bon vivant, which means she has to portray herself as someone who lives for pleasure and the good life. The more the nature and the demeanor are opposites of each other, the more inner conflict the character has. The more they're similar means either the character is very basic or very self-actualized. To measure how far from human standard morality, Vampire used a 10-point scale called humanity. At 10, the person was like a saint. At 1 or 0, the character was a beast or too alien from common people. Everyone had a humanity score, even mortal humans. For vampires, If their humanity dropped too low, the character would basically turn into an NPC for the storyteller. The humanity system could be adapted to other TTRPGs like Dungeons & Dragons or Tales for the Valiant. Even if the characters are not supernatural monsters, risking your character to turn to an NPC is something most players do not want to chance. The nature and demeanor system, The nature and demeanor system can be great for a political game or games of espionage where players may have a double identity. Now, Palladium Games offered its own fantasy game and introduced its own variation on the alignment spectrum. In Palladium Fantasy, you had three groups of alignments: good, selfish but not evil, and evil. From the three groups, each was divided in 2 or 3 alignments. Lawful or good alignments are divided into 2 subsets: principled and scrupulous. Each alignment has its own list of things a character would or would not do. This system gives a clear definition to each player of what their character would or wouldn't do. A set of 10 things the characters would do, like a 10 commandments. Are you okay with killing? Check the list. This gives players and game masters a clear vision on their character and how they would behave. So, I already showed you 2 alternatives specific to 2 D&D competitors, but I have more up my sleeve. So now we're going to go talk about some homebrew rules: alignment points and alignment plus a vice system. And after that, we're going to do an alternative axis that borrows heavily from the game that started Wizards of the Coast. Alignment points are simple. You reward behaviors that match the character's alignment. Those points may be required to maintain your character class, or players can spend them like action points to get a advantage roll or things like that. This gives players notice if they're acting counter to their alignment and rewards players for having their characters behave like their alignment. And now, the vice system. For each alignment, have a character pick a vice. A vice is a compulsion that runs counter to the character's alignment. The vice does not have to be considered a vice for normal society. Sure, a paladin might be a gambler or a philanderer. Those are considered vices. But an evil character, his vice might be that he hates people that harm children. That runs counter to the basic evil premise. Each time the character has the opportunity to indulge their vice, say your paladin is offered a bet, or your devil sees children that are cornered in an alley by a stranger, you have to have your character roll a will save. Upon failure, the character is forced to take part in their vice. You can combine this with the alignment point system. This will make players avoid situations that they could get into trouble, but trouble is often what a great game master litter their games with. And now, let's talk about a new axis: law versus chaos, good versus evil. Those are not the only ethical or behavioral dichotomies a character could be described by. We could have technology versus nature, art versus reason. You are not even bound to have linear dichotomies. You could have a 5-point alignment system. 5 points like the 5 types of mana in Magic the Gathering. Magic Gathering has cards of 5 colors: white, green, red, black, and blue. Each color tends to have a certain moral priority. White is healing, and many would consider it conventional good. Green is concerned with nature and growth. Red is fire, chaos, destruction, and war. Black is death, decay, and corruption. Blue is abstraction, intellect, and the powers of the mind. The colors are aligned on the back of the magic card in a pentagon, with white on top, flanked by green on the left, blue on the right. Going after green is red, and red is followed by black, and black goes into blue. Instead of a standard alignment, you can describe your character in terms of colors they correspond with the most. It can be one or two. It can be opposing colors like white and red or green and black. Each color has its strengths and its blind spots. Wither alignment is a cosmic membership, way to describe how your character would react in a difficult situation, or a relic that has a little to do with gameplay. The most important rule is the rule of fun. Fun. Okay, come. If you have, if you and your friends are having fun, you're succeeding. If you feel like being bogged down in an ethics debate is boring and you want to be a proud murder hobo, go for it. Alignment is a tool, and I have offered some perspective and alternatives. Heck, I could make a whole series about alignment if you're interested. Today, I gave you some ideas and some tools. Tell me in the comments what your alignment is. Okay? Bye.